Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 467th episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have a referral from Mr. Mark Victor Hansen. His name is William Moore. Goes by Will Moore. He just had a successful exit from his company, $321 million. So the guy might know a thing or two about starting a business, selling a business, growing a business. So you are in for a treat. Had a great interview with him. He's out of the Chicago area, and you're going to like what we talk about, and we dig into some of the fundamental truths like we always do. I don't like to gloss over things. We get into, how did he pick a partner? How did he grow? How did he sell? What is he doing now? And he's not sitting around golfing, and that's why I like him. He's not just riding off into the sunset with his money. I've been working on some things as well. You've heard me mention several programs, the Implementors, 30-Day Sales Growth, Make Every Sale. And I've been going through some training as well. That's actually why this podcast is a little bit late. I've just been digging in. You either grow or you die, right? And I'm not dying. I got too many kids still to feed, put through college. So, but I've been looking at, how should I structure my own offerings? What do I really like to do? What am I really good at? And I realized it's sales training, it's marketing consulting, it's CRM, selection and optimization, helping people do more with less. That was my path, starting way back in 2007. I was given a tool. It was actually my first sponsorship, a local company that had kind of a precursor to Infusionsoft. It was an automated marketing system. It was just very rudimentary. Then I ran across Infusionsoft about a year later, and leveraging tools and systems and automation to grow. Infusionsoft's old adage was grow your sales without growing your staff. And that's what I did. And so after 13 years now, I've gotten kind of good at it. So I'm looking at all these different programs, and I just, I'm not immune to the sales pitches and the glorious promises of these people out there, but I have built up a little bit of immunity, just not 100%. And, I've had inner circles, and I've had small group intensives and accelerators and all that. And okay, how do I really tighten this up? How do I narrow my focus, get clarity so people know what value I bring and if I can help them? So I figured out, when I started 30-Day Sales Growth, that was back at the end of 7 years ago, so it's 2013. And I was teaching myself Customer Hub, which was the Infusionsoft membership platform. And I made 30 different lessons, and it dripped out one a day, and that was the name. It was $97. I gave it away to new customers of Infusionsoft or consulting. So it was a little add-on bonus. So it was fine. Good lessons in there. But over the years, how I have taught that and delivered that has changed. So then I came up with the Make Every Sale program. And that's, I went in the studio, made 41 videos, workbook. Good stuff. Really the core of what I teach is in that lesson plan, that program. And then, so that became the weekly call, but I think the name was maybe too cute. Maybe people don't understand it. Maybe it sounds too good to be true. They don't quite understand it because there's some nuance in there. I always say to make any sale, you must make every sale. But hey, sometimes that's hard to convey in a landing page, people's short attention span, whatever. Then I had the Implementors, and I've had that name a long time. I had all kind of ideas on that, and I'm still doing it a little bit. And actually, now that with this restructuring, I may really be able to execute it. But the idea was, part implementation, part mentorship. Bring in experts, kind of like the podcast, really. Bring in experts to teach lessons in their area of expertise. So it's mentorship, but then you go and implement, and then you come back and you get feedback, you tweak, you test, you measure, you monitor, you adjust, you grow. Then you come back and you become the mentor. Right? The great thing with groups is that it takes off some of the pressure from me. I'm not expected to know everything. I'm still the leader of the group. But in the collective wisdom, as long as I can guide the conversation, steer it in the right direction, and with my experience, I have a unique vantage point to maybe have some insight as to what's a better path for someone to take. But anyway, that's the concept, to have a group of people helping one another as we all grow. So, working on the whiteboard here, I'm staring at as I make this recording. The structure moving forward, I still haven't built out the website. I got to make a lot of changes to my own systems in the background, but it's nice to have that clarity. So the Make Every Sale program is just the on-demand content. So I've been talking about that for a little while. So if that's all you want to be able to pick my brain on demand, get the Make Every Sale course. So you can watch them all immediately, get right into it, and grow. The Implementors is still a free Facebook group. So if you just have some questions, you want to engage, ask some questions about the podcast, whatever, then you go there. Okay. The Implementors Advanced is basically a moving the former Make Every Sale and 30-day sales growth communities into that. So that's the paid version, live weekly calls every Monday, and you can join month to month, or you can save 50% and join for the year. So that's the structure, okay? And then the 30-day sales growth, I'm going to start putting programs together where it's truly 30 days live with me. 30 straight days, Saturdays, Sundays, because the reality is when you're behind or when you're motivated, you're trying to hit a stretch goal, you're always working. You're out of balance for that short time frame. So A, I recognize it, and B, I want to help guide and steer that. A lot of times you don't need a whole lot of help. You just need a little nudge, just like, when you're at the gym. I remember I was in high school and could work out at my buddy's garage. And I brought my little sister over with me one time. And, I said, hey, give me a spot. And, whatever weight, 225 pounds. We were strong dudes back then. And she's like, I can't lift that weight. I'm like, I don't need you to lift this weight. All right? I'm going to lift this weight 10 times. That's my goal. And the reality is I'm going to be able to get 9.5, So I'm going to hit a sticking point. And it's literally like 5 pounds of assistance to get through that sticking point. So, 225 pounds 10 times. So, what's that? 2,250 pounds. Out of that whole range of motion, I need 5 pounds of assistance to hit my goal. And that's how it is in business and sales, quite often. So, and especially at this price point, right? You're not paying for a $100,000 consultant to come rebuild your business. You're just looking for that nudge. So, weekends will probably be a little shorter call, but the reality is we're always on when we're building. So I want to be there when you're on, scratch that itch to maybe really help you shut it down then. Because once that nagging question is answered, you can go chill, go watch the game, go golf, sleep in, whatever, take a nap. So that's the plan. So makeeverysale.com is still valid, and it just redirects to the landing page where you can order the course, get immediate access. 30daysalesgrowth.com. So I'll be retooling that here in the next couple of weeks. If you got questions, on that, let me know. I'm going to try to do one in November. I don't know if I can pull it off, but stay tuned. And then theimplementors.com is the ongoing. Okay, and I've got that set up right now. So if you want to engage, every week, really every day, you can ask a question and I'll answer it in the group. So that's going to be the focus moving forward. You'll hear me talking about that. So thanks for letting me ramble on that. Go check those out. Sign up. You'll make every sale. That's the plan. Okay. So now let's bring on our guest. Will Moore, founder of More Momentum, referred by Mark Victor Hansen. There's no pressure. Okay. No pressure at all. But there's all the pressure in the world. Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on, Wes. It's a pleasure to be here, bro.
So can we really run our lives like a successful startup? Are we automatons? Is that what you're saying? We're just robots, man? Do you have are you going to reprogram me and We fire on all cylinders.
Yes and no. So, we're not robots, but science is science, and science has concluded certain things over time, the way the brain works and operates. And to me, to ignore that stuff is just straight tomfoolery. And it ends up leading to a frustrating life and regrets at the end. And so to me, it's sort of like hacking the system, like I was able to do with my startup, Doorstep Delivery. We started it up from scratch. I kind of learned, okay, there's certain components of the business I need to master, like the marketing, the advertising, the sales, the customer experience, all these things. And you just constantly tweak and modify and improve until you have a business that's, firing on all cylinders, which I was able to do. And we were able to exit for $321 million in the end last year, which was neat and exciting. So that was a 10, 11-year journey for me. And so now I've pivoted into this, this has been my real passion project for many years and what I've been working on. And kind of as I started growing my life within the entrepreneurial space, I realized, when I had that big payday, as great as it felt, and I'm not going to lie to you, it felt good to get that paycheck at the end of the day after all that hard work. But then 10 minutes later, it was like, okay, now what? Right. And I feel like that is, every human goes through that. You can't just sit on a beach drinking a pina colada for the rest of your life. It sounds really good in theory, and I think we've mistakenly fallen into this. Well, if I could just earn enough money and have enough power and be successful enough, then all my problems will go away. And the reality is that's not how it works. There's different areas of your life that you continually need to focus on and nurture and balance and build momentum in. And that's kind of what I've dedicated my life to now.
So do they show up like Publishers Clearinghouse with this like 4-foot long check, or is it a little more subtle than that?
A little more subtle than that. So we got half stock, and so let me be clear, I didn't get all 321 million. That's what my company sold for. Obviously, at that point we'd raised money, there were people involved, but my check was big enough to where I was excited, and technically probably don't have to work for the rest of my life. But again, what I've learned ironically is that those goals, it's that working, taking step by step, day by day, working towards something that is what life is all about. And having sort of, hey, I want to get to here. And then you get to there and it's like, okay, now I want to get to here. And then the giving back side of things is also a big part of all this. And I just got to that point, and I did take a couple months off where I was like, okay, I haven't played golf in like 10 years. I haven't, because I was neglecting all my cores or many of my cores, I should say, for a lot of years, even though deep down I knew I needed to be doing them, but I put so much effort into just my one core, career and finance. And so I realized I got this big paycheck. It was half stock, half cash. So I'm actually still invested in the new company that bought us. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that. Hopefully they don't go bust. But, yeah. And then I just said, okay, now that I have the comfort zone ability, what do I really want to do with my life? What is my purpose, my passion? I don't even like that word purpose because I feel like it's a little bit got a negative connotation, but connecting with my why, like why am I here and what do I want to do with it?
So, people always talk about work-life balance, but then I hear a lot of entrepreneurs, say, look, there's going to be seasons in your life where you are out of balance. Should we seek that balance, or is it like, all right, this is a season, I'm going to work like a madman, make hay while the sun shines? Like which of those philosophies do you subscribe to?
It's a really good question, because something that can be a little confusing is I talk about, you need to maintain balance in all of these cores, but to your question, which is a good one, it's not like every single day you need to be firing on all cylinders. You don't have to have your, working on your mindset, working on your career and finances, working on your relationships, working on your physical health, and working on your emotional health and giving back every single day. There's definitely seasons. And especially, if you're starting up a new business or something like that, it's okay to spend more time on that career and finance core and to put more time and effort. But the key is not to neglect the others completely, like not completely fall off. But, you need to make sure you're still doing some sort of exercise regimen. Maybe it's not playing basketball for 2 hours 3 days a week like you used to. Maybe it's now figuring out a way to replace that with something you can do in 30 minutes where you get just as much, exercise. And, maybe it's for relationships, figuring out a way to still maintain with your friends and family and with your significant other, that same type of connection and feeling, but doing it in a way that maybe isn't as time consuming, just so you can focus on that business stuff. But again, you got to have these things in the peripheral and making sure that you are taking action on them somewhat and moving the needle forward. Otherwise, you're just what's gonna end up happening, what's a lot of us do, is we forget all those other ones and we just go full force on the career and finance. And again, money, take it from me, once you get all that you thought more and more that you'd ever have, it's not the solution. The solution to happiness is all of these areas and making sure that you're continually growing in each.
Yeah. Would you ever tell people to downplay the journey towards money? I mean, it's like, if you look at Facebook and Instagram, right, life is all about getting a new watch and a nicer car, and tighter abs. But when you look under the hood, I mean, it seems like the most materialistic people online seem to be the least happy. Eventually you see some kind of breakdown on these people. They have their transparent, authentic moment, I'm like, are they just too far out of balance, or should some just be happy where they are and just try to bloom where they're planted?
That's another good question. So I definitely don't think it's mutually exclusive that if you make a ton of money that you're going to have problems and issues. Again,
maybe not making the money, but pursuing the money, right? And in the pursuit, they just are missing out. They're letting other things go to that 0%, and they're too far out of balance for too long, focusing on the wrong thing.
Well, that's exactly right. That's the key, and that's kind of what we were talking about. It's like you've got to have these other ones. You got to be working on these other ones too, because if you can I can honestly say that 10 years that I built Doorstep Delivery, the business that I was telling you we sold earlier, the first 2 to 3 were fantastic. I was super, super into the business. I woke up every day and I was growing it. I didn't have a girl. I was young and I didn't have a girlfriend. I would go out with my friends on the weekends and party. So I was fulfilling my relationship. I was working out. I was doing all these things, not really knowing at the time what my 5 cores were. I hadn't really put the big picture together. But when I look back, I'm like, okay. And then it wasn't until I started getting into the 12 to 15 hour days and these other things started falling off by the wayside that I realized I wasn't happy. And by the end, I was so miserable straight up with the business. I'm the one that actually went out. I had 3 other partners and I went out and I said, we're selling this thing. I was like, I cannot work. I can't keep doing this every day. I do not enjoy what I'm doing anymore. There's more to life than doing this. And so I went out and I actually found the person that we ended up partnering. We actually partnered with the company first. We grew, we raised money, and then we sold. And so I kind of initiate all that just because in my soul, I knew like this wasn't, but if I'd ignored that and I just kept chasing, I guarantee that the story wouldn't have ended well.
So in the middle of all this, you get married and I guess start a family did that kind of open your eyes a little bit, or was it just the maturation process? It's like, man, I'm grinding away and missing the family. And like, how did that evolve? Like, if you had stayed single, do you think you'd just kept grinding away and all would be fine? And you'd just be who's that dude with the beard, runs around acting like a cool guy with, I don't know, bikini models at his house and he owns a bear.
Right. Right. That guy, right. I mean, I don't know that guy and I'm not here to judge anybody, but I can guarantee you if that's what he's putting out there, there's a hollow space that he's trying to fill.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I'm talking. So yes, the answer when I got married, life, you mature as you get older. So it's a combination of, there was a natural maturity. Hopefully, right. In some ways, my friends still call me Peter Pan because I'm still a kid at heart, but that's actually part of the process. You want to keep that. But in terms of like selfishness, let's talk about that part, like it all being about you. It's very easy to get caught up in that trap. And when you're young, it's just kind of natural. As you start to get a little bit older, then you get married. Okay, now there's another person that I need to look out for and take care of. And then you have kids, and then the whole thing changes. And for sure, when I had my first son, Wyatt, who's now 4.5, this is before we sold the business. And when I was in that stage where I was not happy at the old company, and I said, you know what, something's got to give. Like, I want to be a good role model for this guy. This is what life is about. How am I incorporating this? How am I going to show him how to be happy when I myself am not even happy? And so that's when I kind of pivoted and was like, this is my mission. I need to sell this company, and I need to focus on what I really want to do.
So to make him happy, did you realize that you needed to become a Packers fan? Was that part of the path?
Packers fan? Where does that come in? That's funny. Did you know? I don't know. I was a Packers fan.
Oh yeah. Well, I just see you're living in Chicago, so I'm just guessing.
Oh yeah. So
I got just college buddies. One's from Chicago, one's from near Green Bay, and they talk so much smack on each other.
Yeah.
I just sit there. I just pour fire on both and just enjoy them.
Oh yeah, that's a good call. That's probably fun to sit back and watch that rivalry. So I moved to Chicago 5 years ago. Our business, doorstep delivery and all that was actually in Florida. That's where
Florida. Okay, that's where you went to school, right?
Yeah, went to school in Florida.
Are you from Florida?
College. No, originally from DC, but that's the Maryland. I went to college, so then I moved there, and then I ended up staying up until 5 years ago. We moved, and that's when I was selling my business, in the process of selling my business, and then my wife got into Northwestern here for medical school, and
nice.
We got our kid, and everything just kind of shifted. So I'm not a full all-in Bears fan, but I'm living here, I'm getting there.
It rubs off on you wherever you go. It rubs off on you. Like I'm surrounded by all kind of people because nobody is from California anymore, right? There's a handful, but
right.
And there's Chargers, and then there's Charger haters, right? Oh, they moved to LA, and then now there's Rams fans because they're moved back, and there's Raiders fans. I'm surrounded by everybody, man. And then in Vegas, I don't know, man. I don't worry about the NFL, but
that's like Florida too. Nobody's from Florida. It's like all a bunch of migrants, and you're kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm a Dolphins fan, but are you
like really?
Yeah.
Like from the 70s I am, but not anymore. But
right.
I digress. All right, so there's a lot of people listening to this saying, I want the chance to find out if money doesn't make me happy. How do I make some? Right? So, I mean, going back, because you started your doorstep delivery, 10 years ago or a little more?
Yeah, it's probably about 12 now.
All right. So we're doing this. So 2008.
2008. Mm-hmm.
Right. So the other stuff didn't exist, right? Grubhub and whatever. I mean, so were you a leader in this space?
I mean, honestly, we kind of were in that. Yeah, Grubhub didn't exist. Uber was
Eats, all that stuff.
Uber didn't even exist when we started, let alone Uber Eats, that's only 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And iPhones had just come out. And
07. Yeah.
There were other people. It's not like I invented this food delivery, but there was nobody doing it efficiently. And the only way at the time was to literally get on your phone. Like they would have these, you'd have your number, people would call in and they would place their order over the phone. So it was totally inefficient, not scalable. It would take forever. Then you'd have to call your driver and you hope that they would have had a Garmin GPS. Do you remember those things back in the day?
Yep.
Because again, this was before right on the cusp of when iPhones were coming out. And then if they had one, you'd give them the address and they'd plug it in. Or sometimes you had our dispatchers had to walk them through, like, okay, take a left here, take a right. I mean, really, really not a scalable thing. And it was just really good timing. I was stuck. The way I came up with the ideas, I was stuck. So I was selling real estate at the time. We were stuck in this office for 12 to 15 hours a day and selling land. And sometimes it was so busy. This is back when the frothy real estate market, right? And it crashed around 2007, 2008.
Yep.
But back in 2006, it was like anybody and their mother could get a loan. And it was just no holds barred. Our phones were ringing off the hook. So I was like, how do I get food that I want to eat? And there just wasn't an opportunity other than pizza and Chinese, which has been the standard for years and years and years. And I said, I want sushi. I want a salad from Panera. I want a chicken sandwich. And so I had the idea, and we just kind of cultivated it. And then I quit my job at Florida Land Partners. Everybody thought I was crazy because the market hadn't quite crashed yet, but I saw it coming. And they're like, what, you're making all this? Why would you? I'm like, trust me, this story is not going to end well. It's coming to an end. And I just happened to get right into food delivery at the right time. The iPhone came out. We quickly developed our own software, which allowed us to integrate the iPhones with the driver so that the order would come in. It would automatically shoot it to the driver. They had the address. They had all the food that they needed to pick up, all that stuff. So that quickly made it scalable. And then, that's when it was fun, right? When we were trailblazers and we were doing all this stuff and nobody else was doing it really. And then it wasn't until Uber Eats, Grubhub, Amazon Prime at one point had food. Like they all started coming and competing in our markets. And it was like, okay, game's over. Like these are $1 billion companies that are losing money hand over fist to gain market share. We started this with our own blood, sweat, and tears on our own money. Like there's no way long-term we're going to compete. And it just became harder and harder and more of a grind. And at this point we had 19 branches throughout Florida and the Southeast. We had franchises, we had corporate locations. Our franchisees were never happy because they're never making enough money and our royalties are too high and we're not giving them enough support. Meanwhile, of course, there's another side to all that, but it's just the nature of the business. So it just got to be like 90% of my time was playing defense. And I was like, this is versus in the beginning being that trailblazer.
Yeah. So how does a 27, 28-year-old real estate guy jump into the fledgling app market? I mean, that's a big pivot.
Yeah. I mean, again, it was, I feel fortunate that the iPhone came out and I said, this is an opportunity here. Like people now all of our drivers have these already. They don't have to go out and buy $200, $300 Garmin GPSs, which most of them can't afford anyways. We can very easily and quickly get the orders to them. I was like, I know we can figure this out. And it was not a fun journey. Let me just first say that. So anybody thinking about starting an app, make sure that you do your research on who you partner with. Make sure that you have the basics of what you want to do. We kind of went into it like, oh, we kind of want to do this. We kind of want to do that. And we didn't do our due diligence on who we partnered with. 2.5 years later, $500,000 later, we had a version of an app that wasn't awesome, but we got a new company. We tweaked it. We made it better. That's just the nature of the beast. So, timing wise, I think it was good. Just like I got into real estate at the right time originally. I think I saw the writing on the wall with people want food delivery. They want convenience. All of a sudden they had these devices in their hands and they can order from Amazon. They can order, clothes and all these things. It's like, well, why not food? And so that's
So did you put your own money into this?
Yeah, we didn't raise any money. It was 100% our own. It started with me and my best friend, who I actually pulled out of Florida Land Partners, the real estate company I was with. I said, hey, I'm leaving. You want to come with me? And he's like, no way, dude. He's like, there's no way there's enough money in this. And I just kept tugging at him. Like I said, he was my best friend too. And we'd be going out and we'd be drinking and I'd be like, are you sure? I was like, I got, today I wrote the business plan, tomorrow. And he just kind of came around. And then it was he and I, and then we ended up finding 2 other guys that kind of were on a similar path out in Gainesville, Florida, trying to do the same thing. And we partnered with them and then we were off to the races.
How do you divvy up labor between 4 founders? Was it luck? Like one guy's technical, one guy's outgoing. I mean, like
it was.
Who's the boss? Who's the CEO? Who's the board? Who has the final say? How do you figure that out?
Well, you just hit on one of the main reasons it got really unfun. There was none. And we didn't establish, we went in with the spirit of, look, we're 4 hardworking guys. We want to make something of this. And at first it was okay. Everybody was but then when somebody would try to step up and just my mind, I'm an organizational, I try to, say, okay, this is what needs to be done. There was a lot of resistance from certain members, like, don't tell me what to do, and then it was like, well, okay, but you can't just be off going rogue and doing stuff and we don't know what it's. So there's 4 different personalities. There's 4 different ways of doing things. Everybody had their own strengths and weaknesses. Unfortunately, the truth to that question is I don't feel like we ever got into a groove where we were really meshing to where it was like, okay, this is your strength. This is your strength. This is your strength. This is my strength. you're doing this. I tried. And my partners, I'm not saying anything that they don't already know. We're actually much better friends now,
Right.
that we've gotten out of it, and we were able to, like, thank goodness, exit before things really imploded. But, they'll all tell you, there was definitely a lot of conflict. And then when you add, like I said, all the franchisees coming at you and nobody being happy, and your vendors, and then your customers aren't happy because their food's not coming on time. And then you're playing defense, and you're constantly being bitched at. Language, but and that's just not a fun time.
Did you give them your life evaluation quiz and they just rub it in your face? I told you I was right from the beginning.
No, they're all off doing their own things now, and I support them. Like I said, we talk periodically, and they're doing their things. I'm doing mine. They're supportive of what I'm doing. I'm supportive of what they're doing.
Yeah, cool. So, all right, you get bought out. Got a chunk of some change. You got a little more than you don't have to shake the cushions for a tip, right? For the Uber Eats guy. You golf for 2 months. How do you know where to go after that? What led you down this path of life skills and valuation and fulfillment? I mean, it's a big pivot, right? I mean, Elon Musk didn't do that, right? He just keeps sleeping under his desk and then, goes to Mars and makes solar and blah, blah, blah.
Right. And then a lot of people would look, and that's, it's funny. You look at what's the ideal, what do people want to be like? And how many people that you ask, if you said, would you want to switch with Elon Musk, would say yes? Probably a lot of them, right? And it's because of the way society's set up in terms of what success means. And he's obviously killing it. In terms of financial, at least. But I think from what I've heard and what I've read, he lives a pretty tortured life.
Right.
I mean, he'll tell you, I'm not happy most of the time. I'm, constantly stressed, and I'm, like you said, he's sleeping under his desk, and he's constantly, and you can see it. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see, or a Tesla scientist to see that he's not firing on all cylinders, and he's neglecting some of these other areas. But for me, what I ended up coming to the realization, it's not like I just, one day woke up and was like, oh, I'm going to get into this stuff. I'd already been doing this since college. I was actually suicidal in college. I had a really rough background, childhood. Long story short, my parents got divorced early. My mom was an alcoholic. She was abusive. And by the time I got to college, I was your typical victim. Life sucks. My brain's broken. I'm never going to become anything. And all these other people are so great. And why can't I be like them, type of deal. Like a lot of teenagers get. And I was serendipitously introduced to a book at the time called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Sure.
One of my professors just mentioned it on the side, and I went and read, just devoured the book. They had it happened to have it in our school library. Had they not, I wonder where I'd be today. But it just changed my whole perspective. I'm like, there is a different way to look at things. There's certain principles out there in the world, and if I adhere to them, and if I use them to my advantage for making it all about me, and I can become an owner of my life, and I can grow and these things, then there's hope. And I just kind of made a pact with myself to reinvent myself that day. So this happened over the years, right? And the business was part of that. And again, I didn't put the 5 cores together till after I'd actually sold my business, but I was living the 5 core life. And that, again, for certain times, the career in finance would definitely take over. And in the end, I realized it was too much. And that's why I needed to get rid of what the system that I was in terms of 90% of it was career in finance, and I only had time for this other stuff. But I realized that just like any business, like I was saying earlier, you've got human resources, you've got marketing, you've got sales. Your life is the same way. And that's why you go to my website and you see how to treat your life, become an entrepreneur of the most important business you'll ever run. It's your life, right? And just like you run a business, you need to run your life the same way. But ironically, so many people spend all this time trying to make the money, but they don't put the time in to run their life and to be happy like they do to run their business. And so to me, it was like, it's all about understanding what these cores are, balancing them, realizing what the habits are within each of them. Because to me, we're all about habits, right? We're running 95% on habits. And it's like, what habits do you have in each of these cores? Are they good? Are they bad? They're going to compound over time. They're going to form who you are. That's what's going to end up determining your happiness. So if you've got bad habits in each of these, you're just asking for trouble down the road. You may be able to get away in a short-term period, But eventually, I call it the equation of life I came up with, which is your belief system plus your repeated actions plus time equals who you will become. And so it's all about figuring out, where am I in each of these areas? What are the habits I've developed, and how do I replace them with ones that are going to actually make me happy?
Well, you're either still crazy or you found the answer, because you have a picture of yourself in an ugly Christmas sweater on your homepage. I mean, dude, you're either crazy or just very bold and confident.
Yeah, well, to me, like I said earlier, there's probably a little both. And I connecting to your human spirit, that childlike wonder, that's a big part of what I do. And I feel like we all go through this stage when we're kids, and it's all butterflies and puppy dogs and ice cream, and everything is like, what's this day hold for me? And then we get into the reality of life, and a lot of times that gets crushed and killed, and then we're just kind of hovering between rock bottom and our full potential, right? And so to me, it's like, how do you raise that to where you're closer to your full potential? And part of that is you got to have fun, and you got to just be able to laugh at yourself. And again, that book I was just telling you about, How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's not about you. It's not about me, look at me, and being so worried about what other people think. Like that video I just put with me in my Christmas sweater dancing like an idiot, I would have never done that back in the day, because I would have been way too ashamed or self-conscious to be like, oh my God, what are people going to think? But now I'm just like, this is me being wild and fun, and this is who I am. And if you're down and you like this type of stuff and you want to kind of experience some of that, then let's do it together. Cool.
So you've got your quiz, you've got some various tools, you've got the, I'm linking to your Instagram. I'm looking at now the number 5, right? 5 Core Life. You've got some big followings. I mean, how have you grown this since you made that shift and dove in?
So, yeah, I mean, just like I was saying earlier, the equation of life, your belief system plus your repeated actions plus time equals who you become. I mean, it's actually been, even though we only sold our company at the beginning of last year, I've been working on this for more like 3 years because I had a role in the company, but I had also had a lot of time. So it's not like, and that's the other funny thing about success is people always look at the successful person. They go, they're so lucky. It just happened overnight. It's like, no, it's been I've learned a lot of mistakes in this new business that I've hurdles and things that I've come in contact with that weren't in my old business. And I've learned a lot about social media. And now I'm building another app actually, which is all about what I was telling you earlier, stopping the bad habits and replacing them with success habits. But I'm doing it in a gamified, fun, addictive way. And I want to like basically take these phones that we're all addicted to. And I want to say, okay, how can we use these to our advantage to when you're leveling up on screen, addicted to like social media and these games, you're actually leveling up in real life too. So that's been I've been working on that for the last 3 years as well. And I'm actually just getting into the development stage. As I had said earlier, I learned my lesson of just jumping in, and then it takes way longer, and then once you develop a certain amount of your app, it's hard to go back to. So yeah. And then the book that I'm writing as well, I'm excited about. So yeah, I mean, it's all just been a journey, and it's one of those things where one day at a time, and I've been having some really great results, and I've been having some shitty results, pardon my language, but I focus on the good ones, and I try to learn from the bad ones and just keep moving forward every day.
How do you balance, creating something to help people with making money, right? Because I think a lot of people are afraid of money. I think they have head trash around money. We're raised thinking, it's not polite to talk about money. I just want to help people. I just want to make the world a better place. It's like, well, you better stay in business, right? Or you can't help anybody. You're going to be jumping from job to job, living paycheck to paycheck. So how do you balance the, wanting to give back and help versus, man, I got to charge some money for this so I can grow it?
Well, and that's exactly why career and finance is one of your cores, right? So it's not like you can just ignore that and be like, like you said, I mean, that's not how the world works. Money is important, and having a certain amount to feel comfortable is important. What I get into with people is, number one, when you start to make money, how to grow it exponentially, like just basic, simple things like using the law of compounding and passive income generation and these types of things to grow your wealth that a lot of people just aren't taking advantage of. But money itself is something where, and a lot of people, the other thing I talked about with people is like being sure not to get caught in chasing that, keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, right? Like I'll never forget, I listened to a Tim Ferriss podcast, who I love, and he had a billionaire on there who caught himself, who was literally talking about how he had this jet, and he said he had a jet, right? He owns a jet, right? That's like something that we're all like, holy cow, if I could ever get to that, that'd be like insane. And he said another billionaire that he knows got the newer version of his jet. And he literally started to get depressed, he said. And he's like, I want that. And he said he caught himself and was like, what am I doing? And that's exactly the perfect example of like, on a smaller level, we all do it. Like, this guy has this. And just like you said, social media, it's this new watch, it's this person's got this bag, or, but that's not, when you get caught up in like, you just want more versus, okay, figuring out what it is that I need. Like, what do I really want? What do I need? Okay, I want a house. Oh, I'd like to drive a nice car. I'd like to be able to take care of my family without worrying every day if I'm going to be able to cover the bills. Like, you get to that stage, and it's actually, science has proven there is a level where you don't get incrementally happier after you make a certain amount of money. And a lot of people would probably argue that. Again, being in this, using myself as an example, who has, for a while, money was a huge focus for me, just as it is for many young people and success entrepreneurs trying to start out and grow their business. And, you got that paycheck glittering in your eyes in the background. But then once you get it, it's like, oh, wow. Okay. So, well, now do I just want to go make 100 million because, personally 100 million because why? So that I can, I'm like, no, I have the house that I want to live in. I have the yard that I want for my kids. My kids are being taken care of. I don't have to worry about paying my bills each month. I drive the car that I want. Actually, I drive a RAV4 right now, and it's a lease. And that's a whole nother lesson, but basically I don't drive a ton. And so right now I'm like, okay, I literally drive maybe 20 miles a week and my car sits in my driveway. I'm not going to get an expensive car, but I have goals. And when I finish my book and the app, I'm rewarding myself with my dream car. But the point is, I can afford these things, and just buying it all and getting, like, if I did have the best car ever, then I'd want that new model that came out. And it's like, just more doesn't work. You got to figure out what it is I want, and then you want to set goals and be able to work towards those things versus just saying, I want more.
Yeah. I want to go back to your college days, your victim mentality, right? And not everybody can just flip the switch. A professor mentions a book in passing. Most people, they're not even listening. They do listen. Even if they hear it, it doesn't resonate. It doesn't stick. Maybe if it sticks, they still don't take the action to go get the book. They go get the book. They probably won't read it. If they do read it, yeah, they'll make excuses. Yeah, that doesn't apply to me. I'm different. My situation's different, and they're full of crap, but it exists. It persists. Why do you think it resonated with you? Why do you think you made that switch? Because a lot of people don't.
So, yeah, I talk about this in my book and some of the material I get into. Basically, I think I was fortunate in that I call it my rock bottom bounce. Like, a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, hover between rock bottom and their best self their whole life, not quite low enough to be like desperate enough to be like, I have got to do something major to change my life. But not high enough to where they're living the, really just experience true happiness on a day-to-day basis. They may have glimpses of it here and there, but not the type that we're all capable of. And so I was on the rock bottom side, right? Like I said, I was suicidal, and I just happened to hear this. I was looking, I was like, I need something, right? And this guy mentioned this book, and he was literally my favorite professor at the time. And I had a lot of respect for him, just about the way he taught, and just personally, just the way his vibe and everything. You could tell he was a happy dude, right? And I'm like, okay, what is it? And he's like, I read this book years ago, and it changed my life. And I was like, that's what I need. And I went, and like I said, they had it. Had they not had it, I wonder if I'd actually taken it to the next level. And back then they didn't have Amazon and these types of things. So I would have had to, Barnes and Noble, go try to find it. Maybe I would have, maybe I wouldn't have. But by reading it, something ignited in me. And I was like, okay, this is this world of being able to better myself and taking universal principles that have been around since the beginning of time and will be around till the end. Like, you read this book that was written in the 30s by Dale Carnegie, and it holds up today. Like, you really wouldn't, if they put modern references in it, which I think they've done now, you wouldn't even know it was written. And that's the point. It's like, you just you gotta know what these things are, and you gotta abide by them. You can't cheat the system. If you try to go off and do it your own way, and yeah, well, I know it says make other people feel special and make it about them and be empathetic and build your relationships that way, but I'm going to do it my way and just make it all about me. That may work in the short term, but eventually at your funeral, you're not going to have a big audience, number one. And number two, those two people that are there, they're not going to have the best things to say about you. And that's where I was like, no, that's not what I want. This is how I want to do it.
Yeah, that's cool. It's interesting how God puts people in your path, right? It's like there's little miracles everywhere. Maybe we don't recognize them. Maybe we're not looking, so that's cool. I mean, kudos to you for doing it. I give that book as a gift quite often to young people, graduating high school, graduating college. And what I'll do throughout the book, like in the margins, I'll write, like, when you get to this page, call me, and I'll give you another $20. And later on, I get to this page, I'll send you $50. Nobody's ever collected.
Wow. Right. You can lead a horse to water.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You got to really want to. And so part of what I'm trying to do here, Wes, is I'm trying to make it fun. There is a negative stigma to personal development. Self-help was what it was more called in our day. It's kind of, but there's still a stigma of like, what's wrong? Your brain's broken. What, you need help? Like, or are you trying so hard? I'm coaching a couple young guys right now, actually at my alma mater, Rollins College. And one of them says they use this term tryhards and hardos. That's what all the cool kids basically, like, if you're out there trying harder or trying to better yourself or do something that's not like, within the herd type thing. It's like, well, why are you trying so hard? What do you think you're better than everybody else? And that just, there's always that. And I think there's always going to be, because it's those people that aren't rising to their level that are always going to try to pull everybody down. Right. Yeah. Those ones that are. And so, yeah, I mean, to me, it's all about helping people understand that their full potential's in there, and there's a way to find it. And I just want to kind of help them do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the crabs in the bucket, right? They reach up and pull them back down.
That's exactly right. It's like, well, wait, this guy, no, we're good here.
Yeah.
Because, but if you try to go up there, then that makes me feel worse about myself. And I don't like that. Right. So I'm going to pull you back down here. There's always going to be that. So I'm trying to gamify the experience. Like I said, with my app, I'm trying to make it fun. I'm trying to make it cool. Cool's not even a cool word anymore. What is the word for cool? I don't even know.
Dude, I'm 50. I don't know what's cool anymore. So I don't know.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, people I know that they want this, right? It's not like this isn't like nobody wants to be happy and feel better. Yale had a course they came out with not terribly long ago that quickly became the number one course that they've ever offered, and has since become this huge national phenomenon. You can get it online for free. Look it up. It's their happiness course. And it basically is just how to be happy. And it just exploded when they did this. So it's not like there's not this want, but it's how you go about it. And like you said, you can give somebody a book, but it's like, I don't want this, this book written 70 years ago. It's like, how do you combine that with what's going on today, like with social media and gaming and this instant generation, this instant gratification? It's tough, but that's what I've made my mission to be.
Yeah. Have you noticed any changes in friends and family once you sold? They all think you're this like super rich guy that can end poverty and certainly donate to their kids' fundraiser. I mean, has there been any downfall from that?
So I've been fortunate enough to not have people come out and say those things to me. That's definitely a vibe you get from certain people. That's just human nature. You're always going to get that. There's a group of guys I go on a golf trip with, and we have this running joke because we're still on a text chain with each other. One guy one time made a comment. He's like, so what do you, now that you sold, this was right after I'd sold. He's like, what do? Do you just sit around in your bathrobe in front of the fire and drink wine and champagne all day? And I was like, yeah, that's about it. Right. So we have that as a joke, but right. There's always going to be haters, like you're saying, there's always going to be people, and there's always going to be people that are jealous, and that's part of human nature. And the only thing you can do is, like I said, I'm now spending a lot of money. I have 0 products I'm selling right now. So let me be clear about that. You go to my website, you can take this core quiz and find out where you stand in each of these 5 core areas. And then it'll ask you for your email. And then I have a weekly email I send out. And then, as you said, we have the Instagram page, 5 Core Life, spelled with a 5, not FIVE, that has daily insights and videos that I'm making. I'm just trying to spread this stuff that I know that I've figured out. Right. And again, I got 2 small boys. If nothing else, I want to make sure that they go down the right path and they don't make some of the same mistakes I do, and they're starting on the right foot, because habits don't care if they're good or bad, helping or hurting us. Once they're formed, they're really hard to undo. And they do determine and they dictate kind of who we are and our happiness. And so it's like, if you can set them early enough, you're in a much better position of basing them off of universal principles of things that have been proven to lead to happiness versus, you can undo them. They're like these ticks that just grab on hard. It takes work, and you got to make a commitment to yourself. And then once you undo them and you get your mind working in the right way, it actually goes on autopilot, and it says, okay, I'm going to conserve energy. I got that one. I'm not going to worry about it. And so then you got your habits working for instead of against you. And that's my goal, is to try to help people with that. And again, I'm not right now. Eventually, I'm going to have my app. I'm going to have a book. But right now, I'm just kind of trying to build the movement and get people into it.
Right. Very cool. Thus the name, huh? The More Momentum.
That's it.
Very nice. So I'm linking to that. So it's more with an E, moremomentum.com.
MOORE. Yep.
They can learn about your book, but right at the top, it's what's your core score, right? That's where the quiz is.
Yep. 5
core assessment. They can see your ugly Christmas sweater. Look at that. Ooh, look at that. I may have to embed that on yeah. All right. I'm going to go grab that before you take it down, man.
Oh, that's not coming down. That's staying for sure.
That's awesome.
Actually, you know what? That link may be broken. It's supposed to, it's literally me dancing to a Queen song. It was one of my favorite groups.
No, it's YouTube. It's there.
It is there. Okay. Just being a complete moron. And to me, like, that's the point. It's like, look, we all have this in us. At what point did you stop dancing? At what point did you stop singing aloud because you're embarrassed and you're self-conscious? It's like, just fucking go for it. Like,
yeah,
you only got one life to live.
Yep.
Live it to its fullest.
Very cool. Well, I am linking to that, linking to your 5 Core Life. Did I say that right? Let me see.
Yep. 5 Core Life with it.
Yep. Linking there. So very cool, man. Any final parting words? Any questions I should have asked?
No, you actually asked some really good ones. You hit on a lot of topics that allowed me to kind of talk about stuff and what I'm doing and the different perspectives of how people might be seeing it differently. At the end of the day, I'll just say, if I have to leave people with one piece of advice, is just whether you do it through what I'm doing or you decide to do it on your own, come up with a system. Because if you just try to just say, okay, well, like, look at New Year's resolutions. How many of those fail? Like 99% of them, because you go, okay, I'm going to do this year, but there's no system. There's nothing to undo that bad habit. Like I was saying, that's grabbing on really hard. You got to have a system that allows you to sort of get through the hard part and replace that failure habit with a success habit. So you got to have a system. I have one, and it's something I share with people. But if, like I said, just come up with one where you're holding yourself accountable in some way, and you're making sure you're doing that thing every single day and taking that action until it goes the way you want it to.
Yep. No easy button, huh?
No easy button. There's a lot of people that'll tell you they can sell you the elixir to happiness for $9.99, and those are the ones you want to run from.
Yeah. Amen. Run from them and run to you. All right, man. Will Moore, thanks for coming on the podcast, man. It's been great.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Wes. This was awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
What do we say? Go Bears? Go Bears?
Sure. Go Bears.
From suicidal thoughts to a $321 million exit to books and programs to help others. You got to love it. All because of one teacher. And what book? How to Win Friends and Influence People. Our next guest coming up on 468, Mitzi Perdue. She was the daughter of the co-founder of Sheraton Hotels. Later in life, she married Frank Perdue, one of the biggest chicken manufacturers, producers in the world, well, certainly the nation. Interesting story with her. Graduate of Harvard, very accomplished in her own right. And we talk about how to win friends and influence people, because I'm editing these episodes and going through them, and I thought I had copied and pasted duplicate content between the interviews, but it was both of them mention it. It's amazing how you see some of these core fundamental books shaping lives in successful people, in the world, these successful people. So maybe you should get that book as well. I've got it on my shelf. I give it as gifts quite often, and not enough people read it, but hey, you should get it and read it. I love what he's talking about, systems and habits, and seeing the inefficiencies, seeing how he could scale. That's what I was talking about in the beginning. Right? That's what shaped my trajectory in the Sales Whisperer, going from just pure sales training to then systems, CRMs, marketing automation. Because, years ago, I was 2001 or so, I was with a tech company. The BlackBerry had come out, and they were huge. Just like, it was so funny. Like, they were huge by those standards. They're like normal compared to a big Galaxy or iPhone 12, whatever, Pro Max, whatever name they're coming out with. But I worked for a small tech firm. I knew the IT department. I convinced them to BCC my cell phone email address, because we all have our own email address with our cell phone. You probably don't even know it because you don't need it anymore, but back in the day, we had those. So I was BCC'd. There wasn't this IMAP and whatever that was synchronizing your emails, but at least I could get my emails while I was on the road. And I was doing business while others were waiting till they got to their hotel room to boot up their laptop, right? There wasn't Wi-Fi everywhere, at every Starbucks. It was just a different world. But I found that little efficiency, right? And it made me a better salesperson. Later on, as we start to roll out Salesforce.com and different tools, I dove in. I would use the templates. I would use the limited broadcast features. Like, as individual salespeople, we could do 200 to 500 emails, I think, at a time. So I was figuring out ways to become more efficient, right? To get more out of every hour. So I guess it's a natural thing. It was meant to be that I found Infusionsoft and HubSpot and Entreport and all these tools, and it's become a big part of what I do. But, be very diligent, be militaristic, I guess, almost with your time. Figure out how to streamline things and not waste time, and you're going to be a lot more successful. Okay, so I hope you got a lot out of this episode. I did. I'm actually going to be on his podcast tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. It's pretty cool. And, all because I started a podcast 7.5 years ago, and now I meet people like Mark Victor Hansen, and I get to meet his friends and pick their brains. We had Dr. Mark Golston. He was the last one, 466. What a smart guy. So just cool people. After Mitzi is Tommy Mello. You're going to love his story out of Arizona. Man, the benefits just keep multiplying. So you got to love it. And like I said at the beginning, if you want my on-demand stuff, go check it out. MakeEverySale.com. You will get a lot out of it. I guarantee it. Okay. Then you can ask questions in the Implementors Facebook group. And if you want ongoing weekly training, support, interaction, then that's going to be at theimplementors.com. So I'm moving all that around. Okay. Thanks for listening. Appreciate your support. I'll go sell something.